This year, this month, marks 10 years since I started this very YouTube channel, and it all started with a desk setup video. It's just a way of telling me the journey that I've made and a way that I can look back and see how I've developed and how things have gone. Let's get into my new one. This is my desk setup for 2025, based in Osaka, Japan. Now I'm going to do this in two parts. So what you're watching now, this is the workflow setup. This is how I built and set up this whole office space. Things like shipping all of my things from London, to choosing my, items and desk and doing everything. And then there's going to be another video which will go through more of the sort of finished products, the more details on the products themselves and other things. And keep your eyes peeled and subscribe to the channel to get updates on when that final desk setup comes out, which should be pretty soon. I'm just going to go through some of the extra B-roll and other bits and finalize some of the details. But for now, let's jump back to the beginning of when I first moved into this apartment with an empty room to play with. I've been waiting almost a whole year for this. I'm so excited. Oh boy. It's been almost a year, if not, maybe more than a year since I've actually had a permanent desk setup, one that I can rely on, a space that I can edit, a space that I can just put myself into and just feel at one with everything that I'm doing. I've always known that I love my desk setup, but I didn't realize how much of my identity is based around my desk and just a place to work, to just offload everything that I'm doing. Now, as you know, I've recently moved to Japan and I've been setting up my apartment from absolutely zero. So I've been starting from scratch on pretty much everything. That's both a blessing and a curse. It means that I can really tailor it to the style and direction I want, but it's also a curse in the sense that it's a big financial investment kind of all at once, but I'm playing the long game on how far I want to see these items and things. I like to buy quality. I don't want to be cheap and whatever, but it's definitely a huge financial uptake at the very start. That's definitely a curse, but likewise it's also a curse in which direction do I go, what style do I fall down. So wherever I start, things kind of go down those avenues and they all fit together, and the desk is quite a central piece. So I've been putting a lot of thought into what desk style that I want to go for, and I absolutely wanted to go for a hardwood again, and I've got some local wood this time. So this is a Japanese hardwood. It's kind of called Japanese ash. It's actually tamo is the name of the wood. And this is a custom desk that I got ordered and produced for me. And I'm so excited to open this because the pictures of what it was going to look like looked beautiful. Oh, and it smells amazing. Oh, look at this. Whoa, that's heavy. Look at this color. This is a nice touch. It is a very nice touch, I like that. I'm so excited for this. This wood looks beautiful. Okay, time to flip this desk, and not entirely sure how I'm going to do it. So when I first started, one of the things that I was really sort of struggling with was what was the layout going to be of this room. So to my side here, I've got this built-in wardrobe because I guess this room could be like a second bedroom. And then to this side over here, I've got double set of doors and windows that lead out onto the balcony that have a view over into Osaka. And then I've got the main sort of wall behind me, and directly in front of me, this is my living room, which again has giant double sliding doors. And for the longest time, I was actually really against putting a desk there. I kind of thought maybe I can have a desk in the middle of the room, maybe I can put it in front of the window. The idea being that if I can look out to my side, I can see into the rest of the apartment, and I can sort of feel a little bit more connected with where I'm living. As it turns out, there's not really much option I've had in this room. For a long time, I tried it in front of the window. It was just far too bright. And then that sort of just leaves me back with this room. Back in London, I have an extremely good chair. I've got a Herman Miller Aeron, and I actually bought it during COVID when loads of the offices, I guess like around the whole world, were sort of closing down and just selling off all of their office furniture. So I bought it as like a refurbished model. It's an extremely expensive chair, brand new, but I got it as a pretty good deal. I think I got it like Facebook Marketplace of all places. So I'm actually going to be going back to the UK later 2024. And so I've got loads of equipment and all sorts of things to ship over. In the meantime, I need a chair. So yeah, awkward space. But anyway, I ended up finding this one. It's from a company called Sihu. Had some pretty good reviews. Looks solid, doesn't break the bank too much, but isn't gonna fall apart when my fat ass sits on it. So one of the things that I was very particular about wanting was a mesh seat, which means that in the summer months, it's incredibly comfortable. Everything just kind of molds around you rather than like a cushion seat. They do end up being a little bit more expensive, but I happened to find this one kind of cheaper, and it was a bit surprising. So I'm hoping there's no gotchas. It feels pretty solid and heavy. That's kind of a good sign. I have been waiting so long for a chair and a desk. Now it's finally here. I can get to work, I can make videos, I can do the things that I love. Yeah, mesh is good. That's gonna be great in this intense Japan summers. I got myself a gaming monitor. This is where my PS5 comes to Japan. And in the meantime, it's gonna be like my desktop monitor, but I know it's not really a color accurate monitor. But what gaming monitors do have is the high refresh rate and other things. And in between, I'll use it as probably a portrait monitor whilst I try and source a good quality photography or creative monitor. Do not open here. Why do gaming devices have to be so angular and just a bit ugly? Well, that was easy. This stand is ugly as fuck. I got this very basic looking stand that's actually just really clean in design. All of the functionality that this previous one did, plus the addition of spinning, and it just looks cleaner and better. Oh wow. It goes like super low. Yep. So I've specifically gone for a slightly smaller size than what I'm used to. This is the 27-inch. This is an LG Ultra Gear 95 RPB, something like that. It's actually pretty color accurate. It's, you know, it does a good job. It's like 98% DCI P3, which is great. And it's 144 Hertz refresh rate as a max on sort of PC connection. When I connect my PS5, that's going to be 120 Hertz. So it should be a great gaming experience, and I'm really looking forward to that. In the meantime, I'm just going to be using it like this, just probably using it as a main display, and just being so much more efficient. Already I know when I'm working on a bigger display, I am so much faster, and things are just generally way better. The time it's going to take me to get a dedicated display, I think this is a great stopgap that I will be using later in the year. So I'm just sort of like back-ending my purchases. Yeah, it's a little end of year Christmas present to myself, I guess. Okay, so things have been getting pretty messy in here because I've got no place to put my things. So I've been on the search for some shelving that I can put into the cupboard. Now the cupboard obviously is going to be closed and not really visible, and the things that I'm putting in there are going to be fairly large and fairly heavy. So I've gone with the idea of getting some industrial style shelving, because they'll be super strong. They're not exactly going to look pretty, but they're also not going to be seen. And industrial shelving is actually pretty cheap in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, got some shelves, going to assemble those together, much to the annoyance of my neighbours. Gomennasai. Now the cupboard space I've got is actually pretty good. It's kind of deep enough that I can put shelves in, but I can still actually walk around in it. And it's got a light in there as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a lot of storage space. For a solid 10 years or so, I didn't really have much cupboard space at all. I've been using this mouse all day, and I have to be honest, I don't think I'm getting along with it. And this is really interesting because about 10 years or so, I had the original MX Master doing design work and all sorts, got along with it, loved it, did so much like work with it, and it was perfect for me. And then maybe about 5 years later, I bought it again, this time the MX2, and I felt like it gave me RSI, like it didn't sit well with my shoulder and everything. Anyway, I thought I'd give this a go again, the MX Master 3. And I thought maybe it was my chair that was like more of the issue previously, because at the same time of stopping using the old one was also when I went and changed my desk setup and other things. So I don't really know what happened. Anyway, trying this again. And you know what, after a day of using it, I'm feeling it again in my shoulder, in my arm. Like I'm getting really intensely frustrated. However, I've realized it's not the ergonomics of the mouse. This is just laggy as fuck. The scrolling just is not as smooth as I would like. And previously I'm coming from the Magic Mouse, and as controversial as it is, I actually love that mouse, but it's currently in London. So I'm kind of a little bit reluctant to buy another one when I know that I'm gonna be shipping that over in like a few months or so. And in any case, if I was to buy a new one, I'd want them to update it to USB-C, or at least just change something about it. But yeah, this is laggy, and I've read on some forums as well, and there's a few things you can do in system preferences, like you can disable the handoff feature in iCloud, which just improves things a little bit. But I've just found that the Bluetooth on it is just not good, and where I'm tensing up because I'm trying to move the cursor and it's just kind of, it maybe jitters a little bit. It's not enough to fully notice, but it's just a little bit. My body feels it and it tenses up because I'm trying to be precise just to click on tiny buttons and things. With another mouse, perfectly comfortable with. So yeah, I think I'm going to be returning that. In the meantime, today I've gone and bought this trackpad. Always been good with the trackpad. This one, gone for the black one to match with my Satechi keyboard. I wish Apple made a smaller version of the Black Keys wireless keyboard. Instead, they only do the extended one. I'd say it's like 90% of the feeling of the Apple keyboard. And it's USB-C to recharge as well. It's one of the benefits of having a YouTube channel and sharing the things that I'm working on to an audience that is also interested in those types of products and things, is that companies do reach out. Usually I skip over them, but occasionally I take a bit of interest in them, and one of them is from a company called Juin, which make the like the crane stabilizer that you may know of. And I thought, you know what, they make some pretty good products. Maybe their lights are pretty good. So I had a little look and I was interested. And they've sent out the G200, which is an LED light. Ideally, I'm probably going to need maybe like 2 or 3 different lights and different sort of modifiers, like, you know, maybe big softbox, big parabolic one. And then I can take those when I go on shoots as well. So I can sort of have like my home setup that's flexible to take with me places. In recent years, LEDs have just gotten incredibly powerful, incredibly color accurate, and significantly smaller. So even just for the fact that you can buy constant video lights now for, you know, a couple of $100 or whatever, whereas maybe 5-10 years ago, you'd be spending thousands, so significantly more. And they'd also be massive. If you went for the cheap ones, they were kind of a bit shit. So it's good to have good quality ones. Yeah, so thanks Juin for sending this. Quite a significant hard case. Oh my, is this the size of it? Or is this the control? That's just the control. All right. Significantly small, but pretty powerful light. Turn this bad boy on. So lighting controls are all on this unit, and I much prefer having a unit separate from the lights, because if this ends up being mounted
like above your head or something, it's actually quite troublesome to go and change things and make tweaks to your settings. But having this separate means you can do it all from the side, and there's also plenty of cable, so you can, you know, take this a couple of meters away.
So this is an example of how it looks from this angle, but I think I might move the desk over to that side. But I do kind of like just the dim lighting of the kitchen behind. I think it's kind of nice. But then in daytime, when it's super bright, it's all a bit, I don't know. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges with this room is that I had plenty of stuff already in the UK that I'd accumulated over those years that I knew I was going to use and need in the future. And so it was a huge headache of mine of how do I ship it here and what's the process going to be? When I did this previously when living in Melbourne, Australia, it was a little bit more straightforward because it was kind of English language on both sides of this sort of shipment. Here, wondering whether it's something that I arrange from the UK or do I do it from Japan and have a company go to my storage unit to get my stuff. That was a little bit tricky. And so I sort of waited until I had my apartment and then went back to the UK in April of earlier this year and then arranged to get all of my stuff. It was incredibly stressful, I'm not going to lie. It was probably the most stressed I've been in a number of years. Just trying to do everything and kind of fit the Tetris inside your storage unit to mark everything that you need to ship, take it all out and, you know, discard the stuff that you don't want and do everything and make sure you get it back into the storage unit before it closes at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. and then come back again the next day and, you know, do the 2.5 hour drive commute because I was no longer living in London and staying with my parents. And that whole process, it was so stressful. And in the end, I actually managed to find a company that didn't do shipping, but rather did air freight that was cheaper and quicker. So rather than it taking 2 or 3 months to ship everything to Japan, I was able to ship about 20 boxes of stuff to Japan in about 4 days. That was amazing. That also brought with it some other stress in the name of not being able to pre-prepare and do it all and enjoy my time in the UK, but rather having to do everything up until 2 or 3 days before I actually left. Yeah, tough situation, but it's all been done now. All of my stuff came here. It took a while to sort it all out and everything, and I am incredibly happy with it. This is the final stretch. Let's drop it off. Oh boy. Hopefully this is the last time I'm doing the back and forth, carrying my luggage everywhere to go to my storage. And the last time I'm having a sad little Tesco meal deal. Sat on my office chair though. Looking forward to getting my chair to Japan. I am done. In more ways than one. This is everything that's left and stuff that's being donated. I just want to shout out to Vlad, who was the driver who came to collect all the boxes and everything. Incredibly patient, incredibly friendly, solid performance, helping me with everything, and even actually delivering the boxes to my dad's. So I had boxes separately, and he's on crutches at the moment, and they actually delivered them directly into the house and positioned them neatly, rather than having him struggle to receive those. And for those who are interested, I actually booked this with Deliver One, and I shopped around a lot, loads of different shipping companies and all sorts, but Deliver One I came across through like a brokerage company, I guess, and when they sort of like added it all up and everything, it was cheaper than shipping. So it's actually going as air freight, which is amazing. That's great. They essentially just book a ticket for your boxes and just let you know where it is and when it's going to be there. The difficulty is they're going to send it in like a day or two, and so I could only arrange this the day before I'm flying myself because I need to be there to receive the boxes. So yeah, that is definitely a stressful thing. I wanted to have this done when I first came back to the UK about 5 weeks ago, but unfortunately not. Anyway, it is done now. I can have some lunch, I can have a sleep, and I can finally relax and have my things back in Japan. So somehow, it looks like it's still full. How? I think it's stuff to get rid of here, to be fair. So I didn't really have any furniture to ship over. It was all just sort of equipment and just gear and cameras and, you know, lighting stuff, light stands. I've always had this notion of waiting and saving up until I can buy something that's maybe a heavy duty or more premium product, because I hate the idea of buying something a second time because the cheap flimsy one you've bought has broken. So you can absolutely guarantee it was worth sending over a lot of stuff to Japan simply because it was good quality equipment. There was one item in particular that was probably my most precious item that I needed to bring with me to Japan, and that was just my files, my storage, my Synology. So my server, which just runs constantly in the background, I've had for about 7 years ago from an original collaboration with Synology in 2017, and it's still going strong. I've upgraded a lot of the drives and I've expanded its storage. It's now got, I think, capacity of about 96 terabytes. So in a RAID 6, I can't remember how much redundancy is there. Something along those lines. I can't remember specifically. It's been a long time since I set it up. But I've got close to, 80 terabytes worth of footage and other things and memories and all sorts that is incredibly valuable to me. Okay, not gonna lie, I am pretty terrified about how I'm gonna travel with this all the way to Japan. So I'm gonna take all of the drives out and then I'm gonna box this separately. It's just powering down now, and we'll see how it goes when I arrive. So I bought these little hard drive bento boxes almost. And I'm going to take the discs out, put them in there, and then these are going to go into my carry-on. And luckily, I came back to the UK with very empty bags, purely so that I could carry as much as I could in my carry-on on the way back. And these drives, you bet I'm going to keep these by my side. I've numbered all of these, and essentially, they're just nice and padded. And then I can pop these out and put them into each of these numbered boxes. I think I was carrying about 36 drives at one point. Yes, I was definitely at weight limits. They kindly let me through, and airport security had quite the chuckle when they saw just how many hard drives I was bringing through. But I was able to bring them all safe and sound. The actual chassis of the Synology itself, that went into my suitcase and into the hold luggage. It's always good to hold on to the original box for things like this, because you never know when you're going to be shipping it halfway across the world. And then once I got here, I was able to sort of re-put all the drives back in. Everything works flawlessly, all the data is protected, and yeah, I'm so glad to now have everything that I've ever made with me right here. All right, so it's about the middle of May, and I just got back from London. I've spent the last 5-6 weeks or so in the UK, which was a lot of fun, by the way. Went to one of my best friend's wedding, best friends apostrophe, best friends apostrophe, both of them, best friend. Went to a wedding, it was amazing. And yeah, that was all good fun. Also had Adobe Max, which was amazing. I always love big events. But anyway, I've now come back and I brought with me a few things. So I've got a few new pieces of tech and toys to set up in the office, which I'm very excited for. And likewise, I've had a few things delivered whilst I've been away. So I've just gone and collected those. Most notable of which for my new deliveries is a brand new display. So I know I got the one over there, but as I mentioned previously, I bought that as kind of like a bit of a stopgap because I knew I'd want a gaming one later in the year, but I also had a heads up on some other stuff coming later this year, which is now. So yeah, let's set that up. So for full clarity, this is a display that's been sent to me by Ben Q, and I'm very excited for it. It's a big boy. Design monitor. So this is the BenQ PD3225U. Always with the memorable names. The design of it looks amazing. The color clarity and quality and accuracy, everything about it is just screaming premium. It's screamium. I'm jet lagged, I'm delirious. I don't know what I'm saying. Pull out. Well, okay. Oh my God, I don't know how to use a box. Oh. I think this is a slide. We slide. It's a slider. Wow. It's a foot. Oh, nice assortment of cables. So we got Thunderbolt 4, DisplayPort, HDMI to HDMI, USB A to B, power for Japan, water. Interesting. You want me to tear this? Really? Oh, okay. The whole way? Aha, got ya. Bang, bish, bash, bosh. I'm gonna experiment with a vertical monitor. Again. I last did this when I worked at Disney, which was like 12 years ago. And it was amazing because I had my dual screen setup, and the vertical one was great for like web browsing, emails, documents, and other things that are just very vertically scrollable. And my main screen was great for all my artworking and design stuff and everything. That was 12 years ago. Wow. So one of the things that I am most excited about that I upgraded very recently is a new MacBook Pro. So I've actually downsized to a 14-inch. This is the MacBook Pro M3 Max with 4 terabytes of SSD and 64 gigabytes of memory. Of course, the memory can also be borrowed from those 4 terabytes, so you don't actually need to push the memory as much as you can because it just hot swaps it and borrows it from your storage. But yeah, I've gone for a 14-inch because I found myself frequently relying on a laptop in a car or on a train or just in like tight confinements to do imports and all sorts of like data management. And my big 16-inch is just kind of a bit annoying. So not only have I upgraded the performance, and of course, whether you go 14-inch or 16-inch, it's the same power between them, which I love, by the way. I think that's amazing that you can do that. It's now incredibly portable, super small. Yeah, and this will drive a number of displays. So I've got no issue doing this. And kind of matches. It's, yeah, should be good. So of course, once I'm at home, I'm just gonna have it docked and just using it to its full potential, and the smaller screen won't bother me at all. Whilst I've been traveling with it recently, yes, initially I did think, you know what, it is a smaller display, but that was because I was seeing it side by side with my 16-inch. I then went on a trip without the 16-inch and kind of just forgot that it was smaller. So I think I'm pretty happy with it. But performance-wise, should be maybe 2-3 times better than my previous one, which was, you know, a few years old now. And even then, like, that one was doing really, really well. But I used my opportunity to be in the UK, and I actually have friends who work at Apple from when I worked there as well. And I'm able to still utilize the friends and family discount, which is very much appreciated. What? BenQ. Wow, this has been a week of stress. Is that mic on? Is this mic on? Okay, so I just got back to Japan pretty much like less than a week ago, maybe 4 days ago or so. And immediately I was then part of an event in Osaka, thankfully, with Panasonic. And then I got a phone call and it said from Kansai Airport. And I heard the word cargo and I was like, ah, that must be all my stuff. has arrived from the UK. I had no warning of this, so I was supposed to be told when my shipment would be leaving the UK and when it would be arriving. As far as I knew, it hadn't even left London yet, so I was quite surprised that they phoned me to say that it had arrived. But they said it was 13 boxes, and I shipped about 20. So I was like, okay, I'm not really understanding what's happening here, and I'm kind of struggling with my Japanese a bit. Thankfully, because I was on the Panasonic event, there was actually someone from Panasonic who spoke excellent English who was near to me, and I was able to just quickly say, can you help me out a minute, and just get some translation and work out what was happening. Turns out 13 of the boxes had arrived yesterday, and then 7 were arriving tomorrow, which is now today. And I would need to go to Kansai Airport to collect them. If I leave them there, there'll be storage fees, I think, per box, which is about, we said about 10,000 yen if I collect them tomorrow. So that would be 2 days later. So I don't know if that's like 500 yen per box or if it was 10,000 yen per box, in which case that would be very expensive the longer I leave it. So I've got to hire a van. Luckily I can get one nearby. I'd already researched where I could get them, so that's pretty good. And then I need to register to enter Kansai cargo area of the airport. But in order to register the entry, I need the registration plate of the van. But I don't have the registration of the van until I collect it. But I'm a bit worried about collecting it if I then can't get into the entry point because I need to get an appointment to visit the cargo. And if that ends up being a few days later or so, will I have given the van back? And then if I hire it again, it will be a different van. And so it's a real chicken and egg situation happening here. So I'm just kind of gonna wing it. So best of luck. I'm gonna go and collect my things from London. I'm excited to get my stuff back. It's well, I mean, it's been a while since I've been using it, but it's been a matter of days since I saw the boxes. So I'm actually surprised how quickly this has all arrived and everything. So I've just picked up the van, and this is definitely big enough. This is fine. It's I think it's more than big enough to fit everything, so I'll be all right. And now I've just got to drive onto Kansai Airport, which is about an hour and 20 minutes away, hour away maybe. I've arrived at Kansai Airport. I think I'm at the right place. It's tricky getting security clearance because I didn't understand really what was being said, but I just kind of handed over all of my ID and they filled out the form for me and let me in, and I think, I think I'm at the right place. If I can see my boxes, then I'll be happy, and we'll work out the rest of it as it comes. Wish me luck. Okay, I'm in the underbelly of Kansai Airport. So I had to come up to the second floor, get all my paperwork, and then go back down. All right, so I got some paperwork that confirms that the shipment's arrived. I've signed to say the packages and quantity and everything. Now I've got to go to the customs office, which I believe is up the road. Do, I guess, the clearance, which I pre-did when I first arrived here about a few days ago, and then come back and collect my packages. That's what I understand. All right, so I got everything cleared at customs, and word of note, if you've got open bottles of alcohol that you want to bring, such as whiskey, it's probably not worth it. I labeled it as goods, and they asked if I had any like alcohol and things. What they mean is, do you have any sealed brand new alcohol? I had stuff that I'd had, you know, a few glasses of. It's good whiskey, didn't want to waste it, so I brought it with me to Japan. And along with it, an absolute hangover of customs dealings. So maybe only fill that out if you're bringing in sealed brand new alcohol. There's a part of me that's probably a bit too literal when it comes to forms like that. Anyway, I've now just got to wait for my boxes to arrive. Everything's been stamped. Very, very satisfying seeing everything get stamped multiple times. Big red ink. Also had to pay about 4,000 yen for the storage of, you know, everything being there for half a day. So it's about £25, $30 or so. Not bad for the handling fee, and in total it's taken me a couple hours or so. So I think those over there are actually my boxes, and they're going to bring them to me. Alright, here's everything. Yes. Everything is all accounted for.
I created a little note in my phone just with check marks of 1 to 20 boxes, and then as they went into the car, just ticked them off, and we've got all 20. And then I'll untick them all, do the same as I put into my apartment just so I don't lose any behind, and yeah, good to go. It's starting to get hot in Japan, so yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing this in the height of summer, but here we are, we're close.
I've organised all my cables into categories. So we got a load of audio cables, some audio adapters, different loads of HDMI cables, all organised by length, DisplayPort, networking, power, USB, Thunderbolt, and a whole bunch of other shit. There's something that I've been meaning to do for a very, very long time. So I received this desk in December, just before the new year. And when it arrived pretty quick actually. I was pretty happy with it. It was like custom, you know, build and finish and everything. But when I unwrapped it, and it was all wrapped in bubble wrap, it left a load of like circular marks from that bubble wrap all over the wood. And I think what happened is they desperately wanted to ship it to me before the new year, because in Japan there's like a four days in a row pretty much of public holidays. And so in order to fulfill that item, end their year nicely, give me a little treat for the end of the year as well, they did it a bit too fast. And I think what happened is the wood hadn't dried properly. It then got wrapped. When I peeled off all of that bubble wrap, left a load of marks. And at first it wasn't really noticeable, but then when the light shines in sideways, I really started to notice it. It's now May, and my desk has been pretty covered with a lot of things. Realistically, I don't notice it anymore, but I do know that the whole surface needs to be finished again. So not long after I actually received the desk, I contacted the company and I said what had happened, sent some photos. They then discounted all of the labor costs for the desk and then shipped out to me a little kit to sand it down and resurface, and just pretty much just reapply an oil to the wood. And it's now May, so I'm finally gonna go and actually redo this this surface. It's gonna take a couple of days to dry or so. At the moment, I'm in between projects, so I've finished the whiskey film and a few other made in Japan things that I've been working on. And yeah, I have no other edits that I'm working on, or you know, commercial projects or even personal projects at the moment. So now is the perfect time to set aside a couple of days, sort out the desk, go and enjoy the sunshine for a little bit, and then come back. Obviously, as you can see, my desk is fully covered in a load of stuff, so I need to take it all off. But now I can also then apply all of the cable management and other things that I want to fix into the bottom of the desk, and make a more permanent situation. Because at the moment this is very temporary, and it's very messy temporary. It's temporary. There's a word there. I'm currently fixing all of the cable management solutions that I've got underneath to the underside of the desk. And there's a few products that I've used previously on my last desk in London, one of which were these cable box tray things. They just kind of slide off and they fix to the bottom of the desk. So experience tells me, knowing how much stuff I am going to be having cabled kind of permanently on this desk, where I should be positioning these things. Mostly going to be audio cables and power cables that I'll be running here. Those are two things that you don't really want to mix together, because you can get interference from things and other stuff, especially if they're not shielded very well. So I kind of want to create two channels and two separate areas of things. One where I can send the audio stuff, one where I can send the power things. And if they do happen to touch each other, they need to go like this. Likewise, I know that I want to have a headphone cable that runs under the center of the desk. So I'm going to be sending some of that down the center channel, plus some other things. And then I've got these big boxes at the back that are going to be probably hosting most of the power-based things. These are much larger than what I've used in the past, because that's always been the tightest squeeze when it comes to fitting everything in properly. So I've gone for much larger ones, and that should be just way more comfortable to make adjustments and amends to things. I'm doing it now whilst it's upside down, so I can get it nice and symmetrical, nice and even, and it's just generally a lot easier to do it when it's like this. Likewise, I'm going to be running some power cables up the back legs of these, so I'm going to keep those hidden, and yeah, it should be nice and tidy, and it's going to keep me very satisfied knowing that it's organised underneath the desk. And when you look at the desk front on, you're not going to be seeing hanging cables and other things. Would I be lying if I said I wasn't excited about this? I am very much excited about this. This is one of my favourite things that I've been looking forward to. All right, everything is nice and tidy and all in place and symmetrical, measured out. And I've also added a little bit of Velcro down here. That's just where my headphone cable is going to go. And yeah, I'm really satisfied. All right, finished with the desk. It's been oiled, sanded, oiled. It looks and smells beautiful. I'm very happy with the finish to it. I think it looks really good. And this is probably something that I should do maybe once a year or so, just to sort of maintain the quality of the wood. And admittedly, I wasn't so good at doing that to my desk in London, and I had that for 4 and a bit years or so, of the solid oak top and everything. And yeah, probably should have sanded it and oiled it more than I did. As you can see, by the way, I got some peel and stick wallpaper that I'm going to be testing and putting on the wall. So I put those little patches up about 4 or 5 months ago for 2 reasons. To find the sort of colour and look that I want to go for. So I'm renting this apartment, I can't paint, but I found this like sticky, peelable wallpaper that apparently doesn't leave any marks. So I got some testers to just find some colours that I'm looking for. I want something darker and just kind of, you know, a bit more moody, I guess. And secondly, I want to find out if when I peel it after a number of months, is it going to leave some sticky residue, in which case I've just got a small patch to clean, versus finding out when I move out of this place that I've got a whole sticky wall. So I'm going to find out. Apparently this is quite popular in Japan. And likewise, there's some other methods of hanging up picture frames and other things using push pins and some, like, they're called ninja pins as well. They sort of leave a V-shaped hole so you can't really see the hole. Yeah, there's a few things in there that I'm having to take caution of because I am renting this place. Perfect. Yeah, works great. And even works on the textured wall. It might be about time to finally start to assemble things on the desk and put it all together. I'm still waiting on a few bits and bobs that are going to go underneath the desk. So I'm a little bit hesitant whether to just wait for that so that I can turn the desk upside down and put it on, you know, nice and neat and tidy, or give myself a little bit of a headache later and, you know, try my best with it all assembled. But realistically, I need to get my desk back together. And in fact, I have a deadline today. So I'm filming a podcast with my friend Liz Mosley, and that is in 4.5 hours. So I need to have a desk set up in order to record that podcast. And that's given me a little bit of a deadline, a bit of a kick up the bum to do it. Gotta get cracking. As I've been setting up my apartment and kind of just upgrading every aspect of living, I've been wanting to implement a lot more sort of smart home Internet of Thing devices. I came across this product called SwitchBot. Originally, I found it because it's like a little trigger device that can target all of your infrared accessories that aren't actually smart. So things like my air conditioning unit. Rather than just using the remote, I can use this one little device and it can ping off to multiple things. So it's like this own little hub that could connect, say, like a humidifier and a fan, air conditioner, smart plugs and all sorts of things. So with a single button press, you can control multiple devices. It also registers its own temperature and humidity and other things. So you can really sort of create your own climate-based automations and other stuff, which for some people that's just too far. To me, I have a certain limit to it, and at the moment I'm having a lot of fun with it. I use that primarily as a way to just automate triggering the air conditioner. So for example, when the temperature goes above, I think I've set it to like 27, 28 degrees, and I am based at home and I've been at home for at least 5 minutes, then it will turn on. As for the room itself and the rest of the apartment, I've kitted it out with Philips Hue lighting. But this time I've gone one step further and I've also set up a home assistant with my old Mac Mini. So that's now just plugged in underneath my TV and just doing loads of little automations that just make living that little bit nicer. Of course, none of it is necessary, but it just elevates the experience. Now, I had a few principles in mind when setting up a smart home, is that I didn't want to be, walking into a room and constantly talking to Siri and doing all sorts of, voice commands and other things. I think that's a little bit distracting. It's a little bit cringy. It's kind of difficult if you've got guests coming over. They don't know how to interact with your apartment to do simple things like turn on the lights. I wanted to have an apartment that works for you. The idea in mind is that I wanted as minimal an interaction as possible, but with maximum efficiency. But I've got things like sensors that, when you walk into a room, the lights come on. Depending on the time of day, maybe it changes the temperature or other things. And so I've got scenes that are useful for things like filming that will set the lighting in various areas, turn it off and other things so it's not distracting on the camera. Or I've got ones for when hosting friends that will turn on my humidifier to add in some sort of like nice aroma when people arrive, start a playlist on the Apple TV with some music, set the AC to a certain level, just all these things that you would ordinarily go round and do and just make things all set up and working. But you can just do it conveniently and easy. Or things like the lights just coming on behind my TV when the TV turns on itself. That's all connected with Home Assistant. It's a way, way more powerful example of smart homes in comparison to something like HomeKit. It does take a little bit of work to actually set up as a virtual machine as a server, but if you're tech savvy on those things, Home Assistant is definitely something I'd recommend looking into. I may do a video on this at some point and maybe find a way that I can make it a little bit more accessible to those who aren't as tech savvy. As for networking in the room, the apartment itself came with the Wi-Fi connection built into the wall itself, with a single Ethernet output directly in the center. I wanted to create my own network, so I took my own router and plugged it into the wall and then created my own little mesh network. But I also wanted to make sure that I had a wired connection going to the desk and to the TV. And this is where I felt like I had a moment of pure genius when I was looking around the room trying to work out, how do I get a cable to the other side of the room without it being in the room, so without tripping over it or having it go over door frames or like around the ceiling or something. So you can see that in the moment my router is just down here and I'm trying to find some sort of like unit that I can tidy this all with. And it's right next to these sliding doors that separate between the office and my living area. And then I was just looking at this little track and I was like, I wonder if I can put a cable under there. So I actually do have a flat Ethernet cable. And so I'm thinking that I can take the doors off, take this little metal track up and run a cable under there and then all the way around behind all of this and connect up to the TV and do a little hub there where I can have PlayStation and all sorts of things, all Ethernet in. Hey, that came off easier than I thought. A somewhat interesting thing is these doors, or at least the track itself, are made by Panasonic. There's a label down there that says Panasonic. They make everything. They literally make everything. All right, what are we saying? Is this gonna work? Yeah, I reckon I can get a cable in there. Perfect. This is actually perfect. Okay, not gonna lie, I think this is big brain time. I am pretty happy with this. This is gonna be so much tidier. All right, Is this a weird angle? Maybe. Okay. So the desk is coming along pretty well. We're now into the middle of June. It's a long process, but you know what? This is not something to rush, because you kind of have to use things, test things, and find out how it's working. You can't just do a whole shopping list and, you know, expect it to work. But anyway, keen-eyed among you may have noticed there's one kind of crucial thing that's missing from this desk setup, and that is audio and speakers. And this is something that I've been kind of waiting on for a long time because I didn't know how the screen's going to work and I didn't know how things are going to fit. And I'm very desperate to get myself a set of decent monitor speakers. As you know, I do a lot of video editing, and one of the key things that I've been very passionate about since day one has always been good audio quality. Now I know right now we don't actually have the best audio quality in here, it's quite echoey and I'm a little bit of distance away from the microphone. But in my actual productions, my work that I do for this YouTube channel, the commercial work that I do for other companies, and my future plans, documentaries and other things that I'm working on, audio always takes a huge priority for me. And so I want to create some sort of base station that allows me to just have a consistent audio experience that I can just know and trust and feel confident with. So for the last like 4 or 5 years or so, I've been using the Sennheiser HD600. Now these are a very specific set of open back headphones. That means that they allow air to come in and they give a greater sound stage and bigger sort of audio profile that you're listening to. It does also mean that the audio can be heard from outside. But these are very specific in terms of mixing and mastering. They're popular among a lot of music producers, video editors and other things because they don't color the audio. They don't flavor it with like extra bass. They don't make it sound epic for like dance music and like electronic and stuff. Yes, there is some sort of shape to the EQ on them, but it's not anywhere near as intense or extreme as other headphones designed for enjoyment and listening. These are for mixing and mastering. I love these headphones to bits. I've used them almost every day for the last like 4 or 5 years or so. Whenever I travel without these, I really notice how much I miss having them. However, one of the biggest issues I have with those headphones, and even after a number of years of using them, is that they are still really quite tight on my head. And I need to wear glasses when I'm editing, and so the pressure from the arms of my glasses into my head with the headphones has just always been an issue for me. I love the headphones to bits, I love the sound to them. I'm contemplating trying some different headphones out and other things, but realistically, I think the solution that I want is I want some decent monitor speakers that will give that same pure sound and good consistency and quality of audio direct from in front of me. And so I've been eyeing up some speakers for a long time, and there's one particular brand that is just completely legendary across the board, and that is Yamaha. So these are the Yamaha HS5s. I bought 2 of these. I was umming and ahhing across the whole range of them. At one point I came very close to getting the HS3s, which are a smaller form factor. And it's because I'm trying to work out how I'm actually gonna fit these on the desk, because I need them at ear level, kind of beside me. I don't want them too wide. I definitely don't really want them above, pointed down at me. You need to get the placement and positioning correct on them. And with 2 large screens, I'm just kind of a little bit unsure how to do it. But I've been measuring and I've been working it out. And since using the 2 screens together, I think I found a way that I can place them that will still look aesthetically pleasing, will be very functional, and will have the monitor sound. Today is the day that I'm gonna do this wallpaper. I've been putting it off for far too long. I've had these rolls of paper for, I think, probably about 3 or 4 months now, and I've just been waiting for the right time, and realistically, that I should just do it. I think in my head, I'm a little bit anxious of how long it's gonna take and getting it perfect, getting it right, but realistically, I should be able to do this within a few hours. So I've got the whole afternoon, and let's just do it. Just fucking do it.
Emptied out my bank account for you, so you could go out.
Well,
But it's alright.
it's not the best. The paper that I was using was like just a bit too thin in comparison to the one that I had sampled for a number of months before. That one, the quality was way better and it had texture as well, so it matched the texture that I've got. This one was kind of smoother, thinner, and I thought that it might kind of adopt the texture from below, but it kind of didn't. It tore in a few places quite easily, which was a bit of an annoyance, and overall the quality just isn't that good. So I've carried on anyway. I'm just gonna see how I feel about the color, and then I may just try and find a better quality. Now the one that I had sampled before, the quality was definitely better, but the color just wasn't dark enough for me. So I'm gonna try and find that quality in this color and maybe do this again another time. So one of the things you'll notice is behind the desk, I've got these Manfrotto Auto poles. Now these go from floor to ceiling, and they're a way that I can just mount equipment and other stuff without it actually touching the desk. Therefore, things like a camera, if I'm typing away on a live stream or on a video call, it's not going to be shaking the desk because the camera and the desk itself are actually separated. Likewise, it removes the need for having huge light stands if you want any sort of lighting overhanging and other things. And I can just mount a serious amount of equipment on these poles, and it just goes floor to ceiling and just wedges in between them. So it's quite flush and saves a lot of space, and then I can just cable manage everything, and I'm very happy with how they work. All right, it's September and the office is almost very nearly ready. I can't stress enough how long a process this is to do normally, let alone to do it living across the other side of the world, moving and transporting all sorts of stuff. But anyway, there's been one thing that I've been very keen to have, and that is some sort of mobile trolley system. So back in London, I used to have this very cheap IKEA trolley that I just built out and rigged to have a camera permanently on with a screen and other stuff, and to sort of hold like my audio equipment and other things and just quick access that I could move around. It was a very cheap trolley. I ended up donating that. I've now bought a much more expensive trolley from a company called KTC, which I believe stands for Kyoto. I didn't look up the T or the C. So anyway, it's a local metal work company. It's like a strong workshop-based trolley. Quite a bit more expensive, but not to the level of like filmmaker trolley expensive. Those things run to the thousands and they're ridiculous. Anyway, it arrived today and it's really, really heavy. Put it on a trolley. Oh my God. Let's set it up. Oh, this is gonna be the big red machine. All right, I think this could be the finished, it's never finished. This could be the almost never finished desk setup. And I'm really happy with how it's all come together. It's been a hell of a long journey. 10 months or so of, you know, building this out and setting it up. But let's not forget that before that, I was effectively living out of a suitcase for a year and a half or so without really any sort of desk to work from and other stuff. So it's been a long time coming, but I feel a whole sense of energy and momentum and other stuff now that I've got my dedicated space. And I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a long video, but in the next video, I'm actually going to be covering more in depth onto all of these like products and other things that really sort of make it work. There's so much here that I've not even explained, like the whole live stream setup, the multiple cameras, the teleprompter, how I'm switching everything. This display, yes, it's a Thunderbolt display and it's got multiple connectivity and other stuff, but I'm not actually using it as a Thunderbolt display. I'm not even using it as a hub really or for anything like that. I'm just using it as a display, and it's a fantastic display. I've really enjoyed it. But there's so much more to explain and uncover. So that's going to be in the next video. Keep your eyes peeled for that. It is also going to be another long video, but hopefully there are plenty of tidbits and other things that you can enjoy along the way. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in that one. Thanks for watching, everyone. Catch you again soon. Bye bye.